He was already halfway through slicing into my bonus when I walked into his office with a cupcake. Vanilla, store-bought, stale. It was his birthday, according to the calendar I managed, and I smiled like I gave a damn. "For the man who signs our checks," I said. He laughed like a clogged garbage disposal and pointed at the chair. "Sit. Got something fun for you." What he had was a printout of my quarterly numbers, highlighted, underlined, color-coded. Brought in exactly 61% of the company's revenue that quarter. But somehow, I was only marked down for 41%. My biggest account, reassigned to shared credit, with Chad, of course. "So," he began, cutting into the cupcake with a plastic knife, "payroll saying your commission's gonna be held while we reconcile some discrepancies." His mouth was full of cake when he added, "Legal wants to clean up the contract language. You know how it is." Just smiled, because I did know how it was. 3 months earlier, I'd found the clause, the backdoor, the escape hatch, tucked inside the renewal terms for our firm's crown jewel client, a clause that I personally negotiated over 3 straight weekends while my manager was at a golf retreat building synergy. Clause 14b, point of contact transition, nullifies binding renewal until new representative assumes contractual responsibilities. Translation: if I was no longer their contact, the contract froze, and they'd have to choose who to trust again. But I didn't say any of that then. Instead, I stared at the red frosting on his lip like blood from a paper cut. I said, "I'm sure it'll work itself out." And then I excused myself, walked back to my desk, and sent 2 emails, one to my attorney, one to the client's CEO. Subject line, "Moving forward, new representation." See, payroll was forgetting my commission. I'd been quietly building something they never bothered to notice. I'd rented a tiny office under my maiden name, formed an LLC, registered a custom domain, set up a shadow CRM, poached a finance coordinator from a competitor, one who hated her old job enough to come on board for half her salary and revenge. And I'd done one more thing. I'd bought the URL to their agency's name plus sucks, just in case. By the time Monday hit, the machine was already running. I came in late, no coffee, no makeup, just a thumb drive in my pocket and silence on my face. Chad waved from across the bullpen. The CEO's assistant tried to corner me about a quarterly deck. I nodded, let them talk. 10:07 a.m. An email blast went out from the client's internal PR team. "We will not be renewing with Branford Strategies. Thank them for their services over the last 5 years." Subject line, "Transitioning to a boutique agency with deeper insight and aligned values." There was a pause, then the sound of chairs spinning. Slack channels lighting up like pinball machines. Chad's mouth opening and closing like a trout gasping for relevance. My boss, the one with frosting still crusted on his beard, he slammed his door so hard the frame cracked. I sat down at my desk, opened a new browser tab, typed "Branford Strategy sucks" and smiled. The first person to cry wasn't my boss. It was Kim from PR. She sat 2 rows behind me, always wore soft pink sweaters and never swore louder than a whisper. But when the client's goodbye email hit her inbox, she stood up, mid-sip of peppermint tea, and said, out loud, "Oh shit." Her hands shook as she clutched her mouse. That's their account. That's our client. Not anymore. Half the team still didn't understand what happened. Branford Strategies had only one real pillar left, one account that propped up the revenue pyramid. And I was the one who'd built it, from cold calls. From strategy decks, I stayed late to finish while Chad was off at networking happy hours with women who didn't even work in marketing. Now the account was gone. And worse, they didn't just quietly leave. They announced it. I'd helped them write the statement myself, suggested the words "values misalignment." I knew the exact spot it would land in the trade newsletter Monday morning. I even ghost-wrote a LinkedIn post for their VP of growth. It was already going viral by the time our office printer started coughing up panic-ridden pages of client retention strategy. By 10:15, the conference room was locked. I wasn't invited, but I could see them through the frosted glass. My boss pacing, legal whispering, one from HR on a laptop sweating so hard the screen fogged. Chad was sitting there too. He had the nerve to wear his Q4 closer hoodie, the one he ordered off Etsy after I personally brought in 3 enterprise-level deals and let him slap his name on the pitch decks. He looked like a frat boy at a funeral. Meanwhile, I opened Slack and typed something into our general channel. Just a reminder, commissions are how you retain talent, not how you threaten it. 3 emojis reacted, then 11. Then the whole message disappeared, deleted by admin, so I posted it again. This time in bold, attached a screenshot of the missing line in my paycheck, and a timestamp of the email I'd sent Friday afternoon to payroll, marked unread. 2 minutes later, my email was disabled. 3 minutes after that, my keycard access revoked. 5 minutes later, they tried to walk me out. The junior HR girl they sent looked like she wanted to cry. "I'm so sorry, they just told me to," I cut her off. "You can tell them I'm going, but not because they made me." She blinked. "Are you quitting?" I handed her a folder. Inside, my formal resignation, a copy of the email chain, and a signed letter from my new agency confirming my title, founder and managing partner. Before I walked out, I turned and scanned the floor. Cubicles, fluorescents, dusty fake plants. This place used to feel like a ladder. Now it looked like a coffin made of PowerPoint slides and passive-aggressive coffee mugs. I left without looking back, because the best part hadn't even happened yet. They still didn't know who else was leaving with me. Tuesday morning, I woke up to 37 unread messages. 5 from LinkedIn, 16 from former coworkers, and from a college roommate who hadn't spoken to me in 8 years, but suddenly wanted coffee and a chat about career transitions. And the rest, clients. Most were cautious. A few passive-aggressive, but one that mattered, wrote, "We'd love to hear your thoughts on strategy without the corporate filter." Bingo. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence work. Because while Brantford scrambled to plug holes in their sinking ship, I was already stacking lifeboats. Each lifeboat looked a hell of a lot like a 6-figure contract. But let's rewind for a second. Back at Brantford, I wasn't just building revenue. I was building loyalty, quietly, strategically. I never made enemies with the assistants, never talked down to interns. I shared credit with designers and wrote thank you notes to junior analysts. Not because I'm some office saint, but because I knew what was coming. I needed people to remember who treated them like humans when the bloodletting began. So when I left, they followed. First, it was Miguel, the data guy who once fixed an analytics bug at 2 a.m. while the CMO screamed about dashboard visibility. He messaged me that night. "I'm done being yelled at for other people's lies. Where do I send my resume?" Then came Arashi from strategy. Then Lexi from copy. Then, sweet poetic justice, 3 clients. All of them said the same thing. "We didn't realize you were the one holding it together." And they were right. Because Brantford never understood that while Chad was busy golfing with prospects, I was learning their wives' names, their favorite bourbon, the exact date their kid got into Penn State. Brantford sold metrics. I built relationships. By Thursday, my agency, barely a week old, had its first slate of contracts. A shared Google Drive, a Slack workspace, one graphic designer in Croatia who worked for $12/hour and made our launch look like we'd been around for years. Meanwhile, Brantford's site went suspiciously blank. Their client list vanished. Their blog wiped. And that was the day it happened. The final straw. An anonymous Twitter account, one with a pixelated frog as the avatar, posted a thread titled, "How to Lose Your Agency's Soul in 90 Days. A story of greed, gaslighting, a girl who didn't stay quiet. It had screenshots of Slack messages, of commission disputes, of emails from HR marked flag for delay, and the thread ended with a link to my agency. By noon, the thread had 40,000 likes. By 2 p.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was the CEO's assistant. She didn't ask me to come back. She just said, "They're in crisis mode. Chad's crying in the copy room. Legal is panicking. I'd like to interview for a role at your agency." I stared at my phone, took a sip of wine, and said, "We'll be in touch." By Friday, they were bleeding in public. A Reddit thread popped up on r/marketing titled, "Has anyone else worked at Brantford Strategies? Is it just me or?" The comments were brutal. They used to be sharp. Now it's just frat bros and chaos. Worked there for 11 months. Still waiting on final paycheck. Their biggest client jumped ship last week. No coincidence. Yeah, rumor is their head of enterprise left and took half the damn agency with her. That last one got 1.2K upvotes in 6 hours. But the real pain came when Adweek called. Not me, them. One of their journalists had been poking around LinkedIn, noticed half their staff now had opened to work banners. The article dropped Saturday morning. What happens when you undervalue talent? Quiet collapse of Brantford Strategies. Front page, full feature, no paywall. There was a blurry photo of my ex-boss mid-blink at some conference in 21. The subhead pulled no punches. Sources say the firm failed to reward the very executive responsible for its largest accounts, who has since launched a boutique competitor now attracting ex-Branford clients in droves. They didn't name me, but everyone knew. Meanwhile, I was already 3 contracts deep with clients who used to need 3 layers of approval just to ask for Q4 metrics. Now, I got personal Slack pings. Midnight texts, "You're a godsend, we should have left them sooner. You make us feel like a priority again." But the best message came from Chad. He emailed like we were still in 2015. "Hey, look, we had our differences, but maybe we could meet for a drink. Know you've got momentum and I'm sure you'll land on your feet. Maybe we could talk about teaming up." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to my team. Subject line, "Team building exercise, spot the parasite." Lexi replied with a gif of a raccoon chewing through a power cord. Arashi just wrote, "blocked." But then something unexpected happened. An envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note on Branford letterhead. A check, $38,200. Exactly what they'd forgotten on payroll. The note read, "We hope this resolves any outstanding matters. Best of luck." I stared at the check, didn't cash it, not yet, because I wanted to do something better with it. Something petty, something loud, something public, and I already had the perfect opportunity. 2 weeks from now, Branford was scheduled to sponsor a local leadership summit. They always got a booth. Swag bags, keynote spots, the works. But guess who owned the rights to the brand forward booth name? Not Branford, me. Bought the domain, registered the brand, and I just paid to take their spot, prime center floor. I called Miguel and said, "Let's build a shrine." He said, "To what?" I grinned. "To the power of remembering what they forget." The summit smelled like stale ambition and overpriced cologne. Wall to wall with sales bros and all birds, execs in Patagonia vests trying to talk about disruption while nursing hangovers from the pre-conference mixer. Booths everywhere, AI startups no one believed in, branding agencies with lowercase logos and sad candy bowls. And then there was ours. Front and center. Black matte backdrop. Simple white text, "Remember who built your brand." No flashing lights, no QR codes, just presence. We didn't hand out pens. We handed out pay stubs. Fake ones, sure, formatted to look exactly like Branford's payroll interface. Each one stamped, "Commission, $0.00 status, under review." The looks on people's faces, chef's kiss. Lexi manned the table in sunglasses like a bodyguard. Miguel set up a looping video reel titled "Case Studies in Forgetfulness." It showed time-lapse animations of client accounts migrating from legacy agencies to us. Every 5 seconds, another dot jumps ship. The final slide. "We don't poach, we rescue." Around noon, the air shifted. Branford's exec team finally walked in. You could smell the desperation before you saw the polos. Chad spotted me first. His face did that involuntary twitch thing like he'd bit into aluminum. He leaned over to the guy next to him, whispered something like he was giving a golf recap, then tried to play casual, strolling past our booth like he didn't care. But his eyes screamed. Then came my ex-boss. Oh, Cupcake this time. Just a jaw so tight it looked like it might crack. He stopped dead when he saw the backdrop, the tagline, the stack of pay stubs. And then, to his horror, he saw her, their biggest former client's VP of operations, chatting with me, laughing. We weren't even talking business. Just dogs and bourbon, but the visual, devastating. He started toward us like he was about to cause a scene. I could see it in his walk, that stiff, age-swallowed corporate march of a man who knows he can't yell, but wants to rip something out by the root. I beat him to it. "Hey, Mike," I called out. He froze. Eyes flicked between me and the VP. I smiled. "Oh, I was hoping you'd stop by. We actually have something for you." I handed him one of the mock pay stubs. He took it automatically, reflexes of a man used to grabbing control. He glanced down, read it, and paused. Just long enough for cameras, because what he didn't know, we had 2 photographers on contract. One pretending to be press. One embedded in the summit's own media team. That photo, Mike Branford, holding a $0.00 commission slip, standing in front of a booth that used to be his, circulated like wildfire. It became a meme within 48 hours. Caption, "When you forget to pay her, but she remembers everything." That weekend, our website crashed. Too much traffic. Had to upgrade hosting twice. By Monday, 6 more clients scheduled intro calls, and Chad posted a LinkedIn article titled "Leadership is about knowing when to let go," with a selfie of him hiking alone. No one liked it, except his mom. Monday morning, my phone buzzed before sunrise. Miguel, you awake? Check your inbox and Twitter and Slack. Actually, just brace. I sat up, heart doing that weird roller coaster thud. Opened my email. Subject line, confidential Branford leak, do not forward attached. A, zip folder, sender, anonymous, burner Gmail. But the body said enough, they tried to pin it all on you. Figured you'd want to see what they're saying behind closed doors. I hesitated for one breath, then dragged the folder into a secure sandbox. What I saw next made me nauseous and giddy at the same time. Slides, meeting recordings, internal memos from the C-suite Slack, launched an internal reputation recovery strategy, codename Project Phoenix. The centerpiece, reframe her departure as sabotage by a disgruntled employee. Seed whispers about mental instability. Leak selected Slack messages to imply emotional outbursts. There was even a proposed media pitch. When star employees snap, the hidden risk of overinvesting in one talent. They had a literal SWOT analysis on me. Strengths, client loyalty, industry reputation, strategic thinker weaknesses, emotional potential NDA violations, no formal MBA opportunities, undermine credibility with select clients pressure former employees to remain silent threats. She's smarter than we thought, she's winning. I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. They'd never respected me. Not when I worked 80-hour weeks. Not when I rebuilt their pipeline after a data breach. Not even when I carried 60% of Q3 revenue on my back like a goddamn pack mule, while Chad presented my slides with his name on the first page. They didn't just forget to pay me. They thought I'd shut up and disappear. But now, I had their playbook. I forwarded it to Lexi. She didn't respond with words, just a single audio message, 30 seconds of wheezing laughter. By noon, we were in motion. We didn't go public. Not yet. That would be too easy, too expected. Instead, we started whispering back. Clients got quiet nudges. If they ask about me, feel free to say I've been nothing but professional. If they say otherwise, I can show receipts. Our newer recruits, we fed them the Project Phoenix files and watched their fire ignite. Even Kim from PR, Soft Sweater Kim, posted a cryptic tweet. Funny how the same people who preach mental health matters will try to call you crazy the moment you stop being useful. It got picked up by Inc. magazine the next day. But the real kicker was what happened that Friday. A journalist from Wired, the same one Branford tried to pitch their disgruntled diva angle to, reached out to me. I've seen the deck, she said, all of it. Anonymous source. Want to comment before we run it? I didn't speak for a full 5 seconds. Then I said, only if I can write the last paragraph. She paused, then said, done. I opened a blank doc, typed one sentence. They didn't lose me because I snapped. They lost me because they assumed I'd stay quiet. Next up, public reckoning, and one last personal visit. The Wired article dropped like a Molotov in a linen store. The ghost in the pipeline, how Branford Strategies tried to bury its best, dug its own grave instead. It was elegant, brutal, sourced, and deadly accurate. The writer didn't just quote the leak, they reconstructed the betrayal. Paragraphs about my deleted commissions, redacted Slack threads, and off-record strategy calls where Chad claimed I was emotionally volatile post-breakup. Newsflash. I broke up with him twice, and both times he cried into a Shake Shack napkin. Piece ended with my line in bold. They didn't lose me because I snapped. They lost me because they assumed I'd stay quiet. By lunchtime, every marketing forum on the planet had it stickied. But the moment I remember most wasn't the virality. It was walking into Branford's office one final time. No, I wasn't invited. I came as a client. C, one of the smaller accounts that hadn't followed me, yet still had 2 months left on their contract. They wanted an audit. Guess who they requested? Me. So I walked through those glass doors like a ghost made of vengeance and velvet. Receptionist blinked twice. Can I help? I smiled. Scheduled client audit. I believe Mike's expecting me. He wasn't. I made it 3 feet into the conference room before the temperature dropped. Mike stood at the head of the table, hollowed out. Skin pale like paper, kind of man who used to speak in LinkedIn quotes but now had nothing left to plagiarize from. He didn't say my name, just stared like I was death in heels. I took out my laptop, plugged in. The slides came up, audit findings, brand risk, talent drain, and institutional rot. Silence. Then I started. Slide by slide, I walked them through the hemorrhage, the loss of 7 major accounts, staff turnover at 38% and rising, social sentiment trendlines nosediving after the Wired piece, Recruitment emails being ghosted on Mass Mike tried to interrupt on slide 6. I didn't let him. I'm not here for feedback, I said. This isn't a brainstorm, it's an obituary. You could hear someone swallow water across the room, and then I dropped the final slide. Just a single quote, "Don't burn bridges you forgot I helped you build." I closed the laptop, stood up, pushed in my chair. Clients asked me to take over their contract after this quarter. If you need help transitioning, have Chad email me. Assuming he's still here, and I left. No mic drop. Just silence and the soft click of my heels over the marble floor they once told me I was lucky to work on. The next day, the client transferred over early. With them came 2 more. And then the dominoes started falling fast. 2 weeks later, got a calendar invite I wasn't expecting. Subject: Industry Leadership Panel Women Founders on the Rise host, the same summit that once let Brantford headline. Note: we'd love to feature your story. Keynote spot just opened up. I didn't even ask who dropped out. I already knew. Brantford's name was being whispered like a cautionary tale, agency execs muttering it in bathrooms like it was contagious. Every day, someone new reached out quietly, fessing that they'd almost joined, that they were so glad they waited, that they always knew you were the real deal. And then the final brick cracked. A tweet went viral from a Brantford junior analyst, anonymous, just initials. They told me to fake numbers to keep a client from noticing we lost their budget. I quit. Day later, got a job offer from the woman they called unstable. Best move of my life. Attached was a screenshot, her job offer. From me. Agency I built now had 15 staffers, 7 clients, and a 6-month waitlist. I paid every single one of them above market. Gave them 5% profit share, unlimited PTO, even offered therapy stipends. Why? Because I remember. I remember what it felt like to be gaslit into thinking I was difficult just for asking for what I earned. I remember the oops, payroll missed you again smirks. I remember being told, a room full of men in Patagonia vests, that I lacked executive polish after landing a $3.2M retainer. And I remember the cupcake. That sad, store-bought cupcake they handed me instead of a bonus, while whispering about hiring a more scalable solution. So I took that $38,200 check they finally mailed me, months late, and I cashed it. Then I split it evenly among my staff as a forget-me-not bonus. Every direct deposit memo said the same thing. For the times you weren't seen until now, and me, I celebrated the only way that felt right. I bought the conference table Brantford used to hold all their strategy meetings. Not a replica, the actual table. Turns out, when your office lease defaults, your furniture goes to auction. It's now in our new headquarters, refinished, stronger, carved underneath in quiet letters, just big enough to feel when you run your fingers along the grain. She remembered everything, and I do. I always will.